Buongiorno, meatheads and vegheads alike. Welcome to another episode of Think Fresh Podcast. I'm your host, Ty. This is my co-host, Eric. Would you like to introduce yourself?
For me to say, Ty, you've done an excellent job of introducing this fourth take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is our fourth bite into this episode. We've encountered a medley of technical unlike when the sandwich artist puts pickles instead of banana peppers on your sandwich. I hate when they
God
go for
damn it.
the wrong little bucket.
I absolutely hate it as well. Don't put my sandwich, bro. We don't need that, all right? I get enough iron as the resident vegetarian on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Ty? Now that I think about it, I'm in kind of a pickling mood. You know what I mean? Last
His homemade pickles.
I would love some of Ty's homemade pickle, singular.
Well, I'll be in
Oh.
your suburban neighborhood tomorrow if you want me to swing by with a jar.
I would love nothing more, Ty. That sounds beautiful. What are you doing in
You
my
got
neighborhood?
you gotta have a jar dealer. I'll be attending a birthday party. Yes, adults do that. Um, so yeah, I'll just give you the gift of pickles.
A birthday bash of sorts. Um,
Mm.
is this birthday party gonna be taking place or down the street?
It'll actually be in your building. Do you want to come?
Gonna be in my living room by any chance? See, my
Yeah,
birthday
dude.
passed, right?
We're having it in your kitchen. Isn't that exciting?
That is cool.
Can you
Well,
can you
shout
book
out
Subway for birthday
to,
parties?
wow, I never thought of this, but probably book anything as long as you pay them enough that they would normally make on that day. You know, we had probably look at last year's performance.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
true. Well, you only need to squish like the problem is all the tables in Subway are two-seaters. So you probably have to pay some sort of birthday fee, event fee for them to align
Mhm.
all of those two-person tables into a string of like 8 or 10 people. That's really like you're basically making a foot-long table.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Miku, Jay-Z and Beyonce table, you know what I mean? That
Hmm.
seats 12.
Hmm.
You're gonna have to, pay a hefty price tag to pay that much resource for your birthday bash.
Totally. I think Subway is never top of mind for celebrating birthdays because there's no activities for children there and no alcohol for adults. We've talked in length about alcohol for adults at Subway, but we've never really got into Subway's birthday strategy for the minors. And I think part of Subway's strategy altogether is they just don't target minors. They're over that. They don't want anything to do with minors. There's too much risk, too much
Hmm.
baggage.
Yeah, exactly. There's a strict, 21 and older policy at Subway,
Hmm.
and they don't even serve alcohol.
Hmm.
But honestly, better safe than sorry. I don't want to, slip into any previously old habits.
Hmm. I actually don't even think they're allowed to build subways within a mile of any school, but I don't know for sure.
Oh,
So,
wow. There's probably a good chance of that. But then time kids love Subway. You know what I mean? Nothing is
mhm,
more kid friendly than going into a Subway, maybe outside, that's probably the only one that comes close with the whole playground. How do they get away with
mhm.
that?
Well, this is what I'm trying to figure out is if Subway really wanted to target children, they would add some sort of activity to the experience. And you could argue that building your sandwich, customizing it infinitely is an activity in of itself, but that's an activity that adults who lack autonomy in their life enjoy, not children who they have freedom all day to imagine anything. So that's not that exciting for
Hmm.
them. They need it.
Hmm.
McDonald's has got the playgrounds. Chuck E. Cheese has got the arcade games. Some pizza places have bowling alleys. But what does Subway have to offer?
I really don't know. A balanced diet, maybe?
Apple slices instead of chips?
But McDonald's got the slices. Chips as
Mm-hmm.
in fries. If you're for the UK audience here,
Mm-hmm.
they got apple
That's
slices
true.
at McDonald's. They got milk too. They got all kinds of good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have Gatorade. Like, oh, fucking Subway.
Kids, kids love Gatorade.
Hmm. They sure
You
do.
know what? You know what else Subway is doing to like almost this is almost like bias in Subway's store design. Like
Hmm.
if you think about ordering the sandwich, it's order creating a foot long is one of those you have to be this tall to ride activities, Eric. And what because if you know how at some bathrooms there's the little urinal for people thighs height or lower. uh,
Yes.
Subway doesn't have that same privilege for the smaller patrons. So if you go into Subway,
Hmm.
you gotta like look over the Doritos bags and try to see in there. But there's no step ladder for you. There's no elevated flooring. There's no lower window angle. You have to really be at like probably like 5'2" or higher in order to and just for the redheads, I'm way taller than 5'2", just to be clear. But um, I think like at a certain like shawties can't even order at Subway, you know? Like what are they doing?
That's right.
How
Yeah.
do they manage?
Yeah, shawties are at a disadvantage at the way, that's for sure. And not for any reason other than the line is probably positioned at some kind of like medium height. You know what I mean? It's like most ergonomic for the average human. Unfortunately, the average human that goes to Subway is like a 6'4" construction man. So it just works out in those places. Um, there's not much we can do about that though, Ty. But it is kind of fun to watch the, people, the little people, move the chip bags out of the way just to get a glimpse of the meats.
Yeah, definitely. It's tricky though. Like if I do a little bit of math with you, Pythagorean theorem, the taller you are, the better angle you have. You got like a Hawkeye looking down into the buckets, which means
Hmm.
regardless of the supply of banana peppers or the supply of shredders in the bucket, you always can identify the in quotes vegetable that's in it. Now, imagine you're shoddy, you're just passing 5'4", your sight line, your angle hitting those buckets reveals a lot less of the interior, meaning that if there's even a small dent in those tomato slice pile, you're not going to be able to ID the veggie in there. That's a tricky
Hmm.
situation. You need your man.
Hmm. You need you're right. Same thing when shooting a basketball tie. You got to get a nice good arc on that basketball,
Mm-hmm.
so it has a greater to, go into the hoop. If you shoot it at a straight
Mm-hmm.
line, it's just like you're limiting yourself in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. It's all mathematics, right? Physics.
Hmm. Hmm. Exactly. So how do we for the smaller clientele that visit Subway? Do we introduce some kind of like 6-inch to 12-inch ladder?
Hmm. The foot that we'll call it the footstool.
I love that
Wow,
actually.
a
Hmm.
perfectly
Brilliant.
branded term. Yeah, I think that's
Hmm.
the a good MVP solution because it's low cost, easy access, and doesn't actually undermine existing subway infrastructure, so it can be layered on. But you and I aren't really
Hmm.
additive guys. We like to refine. So I'm wondering how we could augment the core infrastructure of the subway building to better accommodate. There's two
Hmm.
approaches in my head, two schools of thought. You can raise the floor at the line or lower the buckets. Both have advantages and disadvantages. Let's talk about them. If you raise the floor, you create a tripping hazard for all patrons. But if you lower the buckets, you make it harder for the artists to grasp into the very bottom to find those really wet cukes. I know you like them wet.
Hmm. I sure do. In fact, I love when the artist doesn't give them a shape before putting them. when they just go like full handful and sopping wet and they just like layer it on
Mm.
the sandwich. That's my favorite.
Even be Dude,
Um,
even better when they give them a little squeeze and just, like, you watch,
mhm.
like, the cucumber juices drip down their wrist.
Beautiful.
Mm, cuke juice.
Every handful of cuke, it's like they're also doing a pickleback.
Dude, they put that in reserve for their staff party later.
It's like their sleeves are just being filled with pickle juice and it's like pooling near the elbow. Poor
Oh,
guys.
dude, it's basically the equivalent of, like, you ever do a shoe at a party? Surely you've done a shoe
Mm.
before, where you gotta, like,
A
pour your
shoey?
Budweiser. Yeah, you gotta pour the Coors Light into your tabby boot and then, send that shit back to guzzle, guzzle. I think at
hmm
Subway, the equivalent would be you gotta do a glove. And you just gotta, like, all the sweat and sauces that ended up inside that glove, you're squeezing it out the finger into your mouth like a little, like, tube of toothpaste.
Wow, that's a sight to be seen right there. You know, Ty,
Mhm,
back when I was living in China, shit, like both literally and figuratively on the street.
mhm.
One thing that I saw that I will never ever forget was a rubber glove, much like the ones at Subway. Okay, this isn't the new glove that we used when blending a sandwich, but it's the
Mhm,
more like thick one that like you might see at a deli as well.
mhm.
It was filled with some kind of liquid, like almost like a Coca-Cola color. It was like a black, dark brown liquid, and it was tied, and it was just sitting in an alleyway, and it was like a glove that was like fully ballooned and filled with liquid. It was sitting on the ground. It was just like,
Wow.
I was like, I don't even want to know what is in that glove right now. So when you said do a
Yeah,
glovey, shit, I don't know if I could do that. Like, I'm just gonna think of this like cancerous, like fucking sinkhole of drink.
damn, I didn't realize that you found, like, a cursed balloon animal. I the for
Balloon animal I've ever seen.
the forbidden Gatorade, but
If there was like a wet market for things, be at the wet market.
mhm. Ironically, it's wrapped up in the N96 equivalent of a glove.
Exactly, but we'll give it a pass.
No, no, they made a new version, Eric.
Oh,
96
really?
inch.
Are we still pretending about this virus that matters, or have we moved on yet?
Nothing is real, but if I'm not gloved up or masked up anywhere I go anymore. I think as a society we've moved past. I'm not even gonna name it. We're just gonna call it it. I moved past it. Yeah.
I just call it our most recent inconvenience.
Yeah, the great inconvenience of the the information age.
Exactly.
That's really funny. That's
hmm
how we'll remember it.
hmm but yeah, for making the subway line more accessible to those under 5'4".
Mhm.
Um, we need to add one of those like brothel style mirrors on the ceiling.
The porn mirror?
The porn mirror, exactly. So that you could like instead of like ordering your sandwich by looking down, you just look straight
Mm.
up at the ceiling, kind of like and then you can see a perfect mirror image of the entire line. And actually, that angle might be so nice because it's like perfectly perpendicular.
Dude, I love that idea. That's so cool. You don't even need to put it all in the ceiling, Eric. The glass of the sneeze guard has a natural curvature to it that comes
Oh,
up and over the vegetables. Just put a glass underside on that thing or a mirrored underside.
wow, you're right. It should be a one-way or two-way mirror. What
Mhm.
is it? Is it a one-way mirror or a two-way mirror?
One-way mirror. So you can see up that and it reflects down to the veggies, but the sandwich artist, who is arguably going to be taller than you in this situation,
Hmm.
can look down through the mirror at you confused and trying to make sense of the line.
Yeah, I guess so. Or maybe see over the line, right?
Yeah, they can see through the sneeze guard. We want to make sure they can maintain perfect eye contact with you, right?
Okay,
Keep me
wait,
going.
I'm thinking this. On one side, so the inner side of the line,
Mhm, the
right? That's
innie.
going to be the innie.
Hmm.
That's a mirror. So that way, when you are short and you're looking up through the sneeze guard, you're seeing the top of from the
Hmm.
outside, right? But you're seeing the inside of the top, and that's reflecting down into the buckets. So that
Right.
side's a mirror. You have to hire sandwich artists that are able to see over the line, because locking
Mm.
eyes with your customer through the glass is a little unsettling anyway.
It'd be really on brand for Subway if they only employed like retired NBA players or like
Yeah.
college basketball stars that didn't quite make it. They had an injury and now they're just lanky and behind the sneeze guard at Subway.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, they've like invested so much into sports.
Hmm.
Might as well just hire them, right?
Oh yeah, the off season. Everyone's got downtime and needs a little cash.
Hmm. Yeah, I heard CF much. Like you can often find them at like Starbucks in the off season.
On what side of the counter though? Are they ordering the frap or are they mixing it up?
I don't know. They could be taking your order, writing your name all wonky on the cup. That's probably more likely.
I'm convinced it actually checks out, Eric, because the two groups of people that don't know how to spell are baristas at Starbucks and NFL players.
And oftentimes they're the same.
Yeah, turns out the Venn diagram is more overlapping than we could have ever imagined.
Hmm.
Speaking of
Fedor?
employees,
Yes.
yes. So I was doing some quick math the other day, and I need to talk to you about this. I learned
Wait,
that
where were
there's
you?
three. I was doing quick math. It turns out I do a lot of quick
Oh,
math.
this guy's a fucking mathematician.
Yeah, like I don't know any famous mathematicians. Are there famous mathematicians?
Yeah, dude. I'll name one. Fucking Albert Einstein. You ever thought of
Dude,
that?
he did. He was a physicist, idiot.
What do you think physics is based on?
I don't know. Is Galileo a physicist? Because he looked up
I
at
thought
the
he's like a
sky the whole time. He was like shoddy trying to get some tomatoes and cukes on her sandwich.
dude. If that guy is a mathematician, then fucking Fogle is a pediatrician.
That's a great new role for Fogle. I think that's a natural progression in his very windy career. But anyways, I'm doing some
Hmm.
math. I'm looking at some stats on Subway. We know there's 44,000 locations of subways. That's a lot of subways. Did you know that there's 380,000 active duty sandwich artists supporting those 44,000 locations? And I
What?
say active duty, Eric. Yeah,
Okay.
I say
I was gonna
active
ask like
duty. Duty.
I was gonna ask
Duty.
duty. I was gonna ask Ty, is that based on an average number of employees per location?
This is just a blanket. This is like gross sandwich artists. And I mean that
Literally gross artists.
gross. Which, if you do average it out, works out to about 8 sandwich artists per franchise, which I actually think seems low if you need to, especially for a 24-hour location, to have at least two on staff at all times.
Mm. But we're familiar with the late night sandwich that only has one artist on deck, right? And then you gotta wait. If there's two people ahead of you in line, you gotta wait 10 minutes to order.
Yeah, totally. And so there is that situation. So some franchises are probably overstaffed, some are understaffed, such as the supply chain. But 380,000 sandwich artists, Eric, I was comparing it to sizes of militaries. That would make Subway the 26th largest military on Earth by country if they chose to mobilize all artists at once. If you take Canada, Germany, and Denmark's militaries and combine them all, that's about the size of the active duty
Holy
sandwich
shit.
artists of all personnel at in all three of those militaries. That's obscene. There's so many people on LinkedIn with the job title sandwich artist.
Wow. I mean, it's a bit of a stretch to assume that they're on LinkedIn, but that's cool.
LinkedIn's too white collar for the artists.
Yeah, LinkedIn implies that you're like you have skills that are using your brain, and you're looking for a job.
Dude,
But
you have
can we maybe
skills that are
start?
transferable. Your skills are transferable to 43,999 other jobs.
Wow, that is actually true. You could easily relocate near the digital nomad concept if you
Hmm.
think about it, because you're able to just like go to any other subway world. There's probably one on
Hmm.
Antarctica by now.
Probably. They're hungry down there too.
Exactly. But Ty, maybe I'm going over the armies that are starting at number 27 and down, because I'm curious if which countries.
That's a great idea. Let me pull up this list here of the largest countries by military size. Interestingly enough, the biggest country is actually Vietnam, and it's because
Oh,
they have so many people on a retainer. They train every citizen, and then they just let them be inactive, but they're on reserve, so they maintain training, and then they could be activated at any moment. I thought that was kind of interesting. But let me pull up the total personnel.
because I thought they got wiped out, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, they're just planning to be. So get this, Eric. Subway sandwich artists, man to man, artist to army could defeat France in a war. France
Oh
comes in
shit.
at 375K. That would be their biggest competitor.
But we both know that France, like, great at baguettes, but they're not a fighting class of human, right? They're not the warrior types. So it's a good chance that the bystanders and allow the fresh army to just waltz on through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else we got here? They could beat Greece, Italy, Sri Lanka. Oh, wow. 341,000 in Iraq. Dude, Operation Desert Storm. I should have sent in the sandwich artists.
Dude, that Tex-Mex bread is Operation Death. How dry that shit is.
Wow,
Wow.
yeah.
Dude, that's actually scary.
Yeah.
Are you telling
Sandwich
me that
artists are,
Subway
yeah.
could take on the Taliban and liberate Afghanistan?
If it's just like man to man combat, like plastic gloves versus real armor, they're sandwich artist brains against the brawn of the Taliban. They're both skilled at surviving in um, desolate environments. Both from both live in food deserts.
Oh shit. Wow.
It's possible.
What
Same
else we
with
got?
Afghanistan. Same with Saudi Arabia, United Kingdom, Switzerland,
So,
Cambodia.
okay, so these are all countries, as Trump said. So, what's number 25? How can we like grow this
Okay.
army to to like move up the ladder for a competition?
Yeah, yeah. So the next closest is Morocco. So that would be,
Oh.
if we wanted to like size up, that would probably be the most attainable option. But if we want to set
Hmm.
our sights a little higher, we could take on countries like Mexico, or Belarus isn't too far away. And I heard that it's very trendy to invade
Belarus?
Belarus. Is it pronounced Belarus?
Dude, what did you just call it? Belarus? It sounds like a Microsoft product.
I don't know. I've only ever read the word. I don't watch the news.
Wow, that's actually fascinating. Um, thank you
Thank you
so
for sharing some of your no, thank you, Eric, for sharing some of your Eastern European history and dialect with me.
much. My culture is not your
Right now, your culture is my podcast.
Oh, wonderful. Speaking of
Okay.
podcast, Ty, unless you have more to talk about on this army topic, I wanted to talk quickly about Drake's podcast.
No way. Is this a artificial intelligence Drake podcast, or is this a real podcast?
Wow, that would be good. We've seen, but no, Ty, this is a real podcast or a show. I'm not totally sure, but it's a one-on-one conversation with Lil Yachty. Have you
Mm.
seen this?
And
They're
I
in
haven't.
Turks and Caicos on the beach filming this.
Oh, that's dope. You know what? I was noticing in Drake's photos on Instagram lately, his posture hasn't been very good. And I even ID'd that. I'm like, that guy's got podcasting posture lately.
Wow. So it's probably from sitting in some kind of like Herman Miller chair with a microphone.
Hmm.
Does he not do that for a living? Or do you think Drake's the type to stand up in the booth?
Well, I think he's developed two problematic postures. He's got the lean back, I'm on vacation stance, but he's also got the
Hmm.
lean forward, I just bet 400K on Jake Paul hunch. And both of those are very similar to how I act in the booth, whether we're at the start or the end of an episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He bet a little bit too much on Jake Paul this time because he lost.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, he was doing the gamer lean for that one, and I'm doing the gamer lean right now, Ty.
I'm leaning into this right now, too. So tell me a little bit more about this podcast, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a podcast, and I think it's hosted by Yachty.
Okay.
And of course, they are really great friends. So they got to record their first episode together. I don't really know what's in store for episode 2. Um, but they talked a lot about, Drake opening up,
Hmm.
talk about going to therapy, doing a graceful exit from the music scene.
Hmm.
A lot of like kind of deep stuff. And I felt like the just the setting was beautiful. It was like golden hour in Turks and Caicos, and it just kind of like faded into night spoke.
Wow. And were there any beverages or bongs being passed around? What was fueling this conversation?
Um, there must have been some kind of beverage. If I remember correctly, it was in a red Solo cup.
Cool.
So I don't really know what it was, but yeah, no drugs being passed around. That would get them demonetized. Ty.
Mm. Hmm. Fair enough. Uh, that's really interesting. I'll have to give this a run back.
Mm-hmm.
It's very exciting to hear that
Oh,
Drake is finally opening up and being vulnerable.
mm-hmm. You know, I just remembered the entire show is actually kind of like for Yachty's sunglass line, which is really weird. I just remember this like important point about it. He's wearing these sunglasses the entire, and then like throughout the episode, there's like graphics of these glasses that come up saying like you can buy these for like whatever, and it's just like wait a second, he's wearing those, and it's like a really weird moment when you realize the whole thing is just kind of an ad.
Damn. So is this a pod or is this a sponsored post?
It's a sponsored post, hi, but featuring Drake, and Drake is being vulnerable. So,
I'm in. That's really cool.
mhm.
Lil Yachty's really going through a glow up. I liked his new album. I Some people were saying it was his To Pimp a Butterfly, but I don't
Mm,
agree with that statement. But I liked it.
why not?
I well, I think he's just a little too goofy.
He is a goofy dude, that's for sure.
And I think it's
Yeah. Oh, never mind. I thought I saw your birthday friend walk down here, but it's not him.
oh really? Eric's been looking through the
It's not
blinds.
him. I'm creeping through the blinds. I'm sneaking this and
Yeah, get this guy out of the
um
booth.
get out of this booth. But one thing I want to talk about, Ty, was Drake and his therapist. They came to a really um, conclusion or breakthrough, I guess, in their
Mm.
sessions. And Drake detailed the whole thing on the podcast. So basically, what he said was it's really hard for him to date or even like interact with people because there's huge titties.
Drake has huge titties.
Drake has huge titties, and of course, I mean the titties are a metaphor for him being extremely distracting. He's so high profile, Ty, that like even if there's like a beautiful girl in the room with huge, no one's looking at the girl. Everyone's looking at Drake. Drake has the biggest tits in the room at all times. So everyone's just distracted by the fact that Drake is there. Interact with him normally.
Oh man, that's true. He's too high profile. He's got too much clout. When clout goes bad.
Mm-hmm. But
So
yeah, I thought it was cool that a therapist like somehow was like put it into terms that Drake can understand.
mhm.
He's like, no, like listen, like you have really big titties.
Dude, it's kind of goals though to just like have the biggest metaphorical titties, in every room you're in.
If you could have the
That's the
biggest titties in the world without actually having tits, that's like sign that you won at life.
hmm That's the energy I walk in a subway with. Because when I walk in a subway, Eric, I'm like, pay attention to me. I'm the creative director.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Find the hell out of that sandwich after this.
Wow, that's that is a really interesting breakthrough. I'm just trying to process it a little bit and empathize with what Drake's going through. I mean, he's very lucky that he has a therapist that's
Pretty
willing to
easy,
gas
Ty.
him up and not uh, bring him down. I feel like the objective of
Mm-hmm.
therapy was to make you feel bad about yourself, not good.
Well, nobody goes to therapy if they feel too good about themselves, Ty. They end up just
That's
causing havoc in their relationships day to day and don't. It's pretty easy to empathize to Drake. You just have to imagine yourself with a huge rack.
perfect. I'm thinking about it right now. I'm jumping up and down.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm doing one of those like thirst trap Insta like you just like turn around. That's the whole reel.
Damn, you just stand there.
Wonderful society we live in.
Wow. Huh. I think I'm gonna have some more revelations on this, Eric. It's sinking in right now, but I'm very excited because I think you unlocked something for me around how I can set trajectories and hustle in my own life. I
I'm
learned
happy for
something
you.
today.
But I hope you this podcast because that's what we do for a living, Ty, and we gotta bring the heat every Tuesday and Friday. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Get some
I got
shareholder value.
I have big tongue titties, if you will, when I'm on this pod. The biggest tongue in the room.
One might say the loudest voice too. Main
hmm
character energy.
Well, when you don't know what to say, just say it louder. That's the rule I live by.
hmm Say then just anxiously giggle and then pray the other person will move on. God damn it. Stupid.
Well, breadheads, I think this is time for us to wrap up this episode. Move on, if you will. Eric, it's been lovely podcasting with you, as always.
My pleasure as well. Um, Nothing else to add.
Perfect. Just a little giggle, and then we move on.
Hee hee.
He. All right. Think Fresh, everybody. Remember to follow us on Instagram. Follow Think Fresh LLC on LinkedIn for updates to our corporate affairs. And see you next time.